Welcome to the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I am Kristen Johnson. Wow.
Wow.
Already.
Are you sure?
Not tonight.
Yes, you are, Kristen Johnson.
Yes, I am.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to our show. We have a wonderful show for you guys tonight. We're very excited. And I know we say this every week, but we're even like extra excited, just like a little bit more.
Just a bit.
Because if you've been watching our pages, we've been teasing you guys with some trailers for a new documentary coming out called Alien Abduction Answers. And we have the creator, the writer and director, and there goes my voice.
Yes.
I think it was abducted right out the window. On with us tonight. And it's going to be really exciting. We got a lot to talk about. He has built this around from a childhood experience and talked to such people as like Whitley Strieber, who we're fans of, and I'm sure you guys know from the movie and book Communion. And this is just great stuff. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and I'm going to play a trailer and bring him right on. His name is John Yost, and John's prestigious career began under the jurisprudence of the U.S. Treasury Department. During that process, he attained his U.S. Custom Broker's license and occasionally was a paid consultant to the FBI in international trade matters. After 10 successful years, the work lost its appeal. He lost his position and sought another opportunity and a childhood dream that would equally challenge him, and that was film. Within 4 years, John had successfully earned invitation to every national arts organization, including the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, Actors Equity Association, and the American Guild of Musical Artists. John eventually joined the team of RYNO Productions, which is RYNO, and began the foundation work that would eventually become RYNO Pictures. In addition to hundreds of projects that he has written and directed, he also produced several films. Alien Abduction Answers is his watershed project, where he finally was able to tell the true story of what happened to him as a child.
This is not communication. It's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disc of light. It is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft. I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
You saw two shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth. Is to know.
Welcome, John. That looks amazing.
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
You're very
I
welcome.
see Jacques Vallée has given you the thumbs up in one of those quotes. And you've won me over already.
Yeah, we had an opportunity very early on when we assembled the film. As you know, Mr. Whitley Strieber is so well known in this community that he was able to help us and send it out to all of these luminaries. And he was pretty honest with them. And he said, listen, I need you to be as critical as you can be. But every one of them, you saw Nick Pope, Grant Cameron, et cetera, they recognize there's something about this film that's different than every other UFO or abductee documentary that's ever been made. And it's not only time to talk about this, but it's also extremely urgent and important at this time.
There's clearly a passion in there. And I know this is, as I mentioned in your bio, stems from a childhood experience.
Yes,
you
sir.
Want to tell us about what happened to you?
I'll be happy to, sir. When I was a 7-year-old boy, I woke up in the middle of the night during the summer. It was August 1974, and I had heard this buzz, this hum, this drone, and it disturbed me. And I sat around on my bed, and I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And so I went to the bathroom and finished in there. And when I opened the door to the bathroom into the hallway, I was face to face with what, to my eyes, a 7-year-old boy was a character from Japanese television called Ultraman. And he was a silver guy with these huge, huge eyes. But Ultraman, the character, is a giant. This entity was my size.
Oh my goodness.
And so at the time, at that moment, I was not afraid. But then we got very, very close. It seems to me that I got very, very close to him, and we were about nose to nose. And then I felt fear because the world started to slip out of my control. I have sometimes said that it feels like if you're in a very large swimming pool and you get to that edge where you can still have your head and shoulders above the water, and then there's a descent, and you start to slip, and it's going to become too deep. That's the way it felt, and so I struggled with this entity, and just then there was this brilliant flash of light and a kaleidoscope of colors, and when I kind of came to my wits, we had changed places. His back, I say him, his back was in the bathroom and my back was in the hallway. And to my mind, we're still struggling. And so I'm kind of grappling with him, and he reaches out with his right hand and he touches me on my left shoulder. And at that point, there was this tremendous energy, power, electricity. I don't know what it was. And it threw me back, and I fell down the stairs. They were hardwood stairs. My parents had a first floor bedroom, and they hear all of this clamor, and they run outside of the room to see me at the bottom of the stairs wailing. I'm hurt and I'm scared to death, and I'm screaming about this Ultraman upstairs. my father, he ran up the stairs looking for an intruder, and couldn't find anything. And he came to the top of the stairs. And he was angry, and he was a little disgusted and disappointed in me. And so they took me to bed. They do what parents do. You know, they look at the closet, they look under the bed, they show you, you know, there's no one here.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And next day, as I said, it was summertime. And so I went playing with some friends and came in for dinner. And my mother insisted that I take a bath before dinner. I was a little boy and I didn't want to take a bath. I don't know if you have kids.
Yes, we do.
so you know what I'm talking about. And my mother struggles with me and takes off my t-shirt, and she notices my shoulder. And she said, honey, what's this? And I said, I told you, you know, Ultraman was in my room. Well, she didn't take that very well, but she assured me that everything would be okay. Had dinner, no problems. But a few days later, I was being taken to the doctor by my father. And as we pulled into the parking lot of the doctor, my father looked back at me in the back seat and he said, now listen, he was a mill worker. He was a tough guy. He had some language on him, if you understand me.
Oh, I do.
All right. So he said, you know, listen, I don't want to hear any of this damn Ultraman stuff. You keep that bullshit to yourself. I don't know. It's 1974, so
Oh,
I guess he didn't want the crazy kid.
Yes.
So I went in, and the doctor looked me over and saw the healing bruises. Remember, I had fallen down some stairs.
Right.
And then he got to my shoulder, and he said, what's this, sport? And I could see my dad in the corner of that room, and he was glaring at me. You know, and I mean, times were different back in 1974.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. You didn't want to cross your father, so
No.
so I said, oh, I don't know, I was playing, I got hurt. Hey, okay, gave me a lollipop and sent me on my way. And I remember him and my father talking as I left the room, something about very high temperature, heat that might have caused this. And so my dad took me home, and as we pulled into the driveway, once again looked back there at me, and he said, no, listen, I don't want you scaring your mother, I don't want you scaring your sisters. Keep that Ultraman shit to yourself. And so I said, sure, Dad, you know, I'd lie. And I lied my whole life. And, you know, I was involved in sports and everything else that a normal guy gets involved in. You know, you take your shirt off, people want to know. And I mean, I said everything that you could possibly imagine. I created lies, and then I lied about lies.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became it became as routine as you putting on your glasses. You know, I mean, you would never think to yourself, okay, well, now I'm going to put on my glasses. No, you just put your glasses on.
Right.
And so it just became normal to me. And that's what happened to me as a kid.
Wow.
What?
And do you still have the mark?
Yes.
Yes, it's about as big as my thumb, and you saw a glimpse of it in the trailer there, but you'll see it up front and center in the film, and it changes colors and it changes temperatures too. So
Really?
It does. My
Really?
goodness.
Yeah.
Have you ever had it looked at again now that you're older and ask the dermatologist or somebody why it does that?
No, I remember that was all part of the lie, so I never did. It was just I didn't even think about it. Didn't bring it up. Never
But
considered.
you know where it
Yeah.
came from. Obviously.
Of course. You know, this wasn't a situation where, you know, I had to have regression to remember. I mean, it was a real live. I was awake. I fell down the stairs, and you know, went to the doctor. Why? It wasn't a dream that I went to the doctor. That sort of thing. And
Our friend Lucia actually has a question for you right here off the bat. It's a pretty
please
good
go right
one.
ahead.
Because do you think there's an implant possibly in there?
Actually, Mr. Strieber and I, we talked about that a little bit, and he suggested there might be. because he has implants. I don't know if you knew this, but he still has a very active one in his ear. He has an ear. And, there may be. I do not know, and that was never. Number one, it was never a focus of mine. And then after I started this, I was so much more focused on what happened than the residual. To me, these were all collateral damage.
Right. You feel fine, but
yeah.
But it's a little of Terry Lovelace, who you talked to. You know, he has an implant in his knee. I believe it was his knee, and
sure,
you know, it just lives with it. You know,
because they can't take it out because he has a heart problem. That's
it's not worth it to have the surgery.
But it's in he has all kinds of images of it being there, and they have no idea what it is.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, these things happen. You know,
very common.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the public looks at that like, you know, alien implant, like it's not a real thing, but it's a real thing. People have things in them, or they have scars, they have damage.
Sure,
absolutely.
We addressed that in the film as well. Mr. Strieber, throughout the film, is a real sage, and you see a lot of emotional things happen in the film, and then we kind of cut to him, and he allows some calm discussion about each one of these things and these facets of the abduction scenario. And we talk about marks on the body, and some of his and some that he's come across in his study. So it is very common. And I mean, think about it. You know, we study deer and wildlife, and we come down in a helicopter and we shoot them with a dart, and they lay down and they're bulging eyes looking up at these crazy people jumping out of a helicopter, and we tag them and we jump back in. And if they could talk, if they could communicate with other deer or whatever other wildlife, what would they say?
Exactly.
Probably would sound an awful lot like an abduction.
Exactly.
Sure, it would make sense, to the flock, or herd, I guess, the herd.
The herd, yeah.
Sure, the herd, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Have you ever noticed any side effects of it? We were talking a little bit about Ray Hernandez before the show, and he talks about the contact modalities and how a lot of abductees have picked up these sort of psychic gifts, if you will, after an abduction experience or encounters with aliens.
Yes, I'm familiar with his work, and that I don't want to say I don't like to talk about it, but it's not one of those things that I discuss. I kind of thought that after I came to terms with this whole thing and kind of figured it out, came to some sort of an understanding that it would be over. And that's not the case.
So you're still seeing. I don't want to give anything away of.
No. It's just I kind of thought that when the film was done and that was it, and I would be. That maybe that was just in the past. And what that did was, it was actually, somebody had said to me just the other day that it was probably the end of a chapter, but the beginning of the next one. And so, I don't know of any kind of psychic gifts that I have. I know that things are still happening to me. And I know that I'm having some intuitive flashes, but I would never say that I have a gift or that I have any kind of talent or any of that sort of thing. I don't think that's in the cards for me.
But you had the feeling like if you made this movie and you got the right people together and you did it and you got it off your chest, like you would almost expel, the beast, or what I mean?
Closure, but
give you closure, and
yeah. That was definitely part of it. That was definitely part of it, Chris. I had lied about it all my life, and I'm in the film and television business, and so people, immediately, a red flag jumps up, and I always say, So what does that mean? If I was a police officer, I couldn't be robbed, right?
Right.
If I was a bank, I couldn't be robbed. Come on now. You know, these things are, they don't really care who you are necessarily. I mean, I'm talking about your occupation. And so I was in this business for a long time. I worked for a company, as you know, called RYNO Pictures, and we do work around the world, you know, do sports and we do true crime, anything history. And we had been hired on to do a segment of a paranormal film. And so we took it on as any other job, you know, and I was producing, and we had been with these people, and they were, I had no idea of UFO community or CE5, or I had no feeling about it either way. It was just never on my radar. And it was about that sort of thing. And we hadn't seen anything, but we had all these cameras. And so late one evening, we were downloading all the footage, and we went out back for a nightcap. And so this is about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And so one of my camera guys was with me, Scott, and there were about 12 or 15 people who were involved. They were all outside, and they're pouring some wine and some, you know, whatever. And I raised my glass for a toast. I see a glint in the glass, and my mind immediately is trying to figure where the hell did that come from. And I'm thinking, oh, well, it must be the moon. But then I realized it was a new moon. There was no moon. It was black outside, you know, it was completely black. And so as I pull the glass down, I see behind the glass, about 45 degrees away from me, about 30 feet in the air, this thing. It had kind of an irregular shape, almost like an egg, almost.
Okay.
And it was blue-green, and it had its own luminosity. So it was lit from inside. And so once again, my mind, I said, what the hell? And I'm thinking, that's got to be like a Mylar balloon. You know, you've seen these get well balloons in a hospital, that sort of thing. But it was as big as a Volkswagen.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And I could have hit with a baseball. And I said, what the? And I grabbed my camera guy, Scott. He went, what? And then all of these people, you know, they're saying welcome and thank you. And I thought, are you out of your damn minds? What the hell is going on here? And this thing moves lightning fast and a zigzag, right? It stops right above my head. And I freeze. And then it zigzags away from me. It stops a little way away, and then it just kind of drifts. We were in a desert environment. This was a flat-roofed house, like a ranch house. And so it was right over the yard, and it floated out across the plateau. And everybody was very happy and everything else. But me, I had been transported back to that 7-year-old boy.
Sure, it's
And
traumatized.
I lost my stuff, and I
I almost took a PSD.
And so I'm kind of in charge of the crew, and so I had to get myself together, and so it was very difficult. And I said my good nights, and I tried to be very, very polite. And I went to my room, and I barricaded the door, and I'm not proud of that, but I had a really difficult night that night. And but what happened was, at that point, everything, all of those feelings that I had kept inside all of those years, not the memory. I mean, the memory was always there, but it had been kind of, put in a corner and piled up with other stuff and whatever. But all of the raw emotion, the fear of that unknown, that slipping underneath the water, it just crippled me. And I was very angry with myself. you know, here I am. I'm a professional in my business. You know, I have colleagues, I have people that, and I'm losing my mind here. I'm feeling crazy about this, and I got to get a grip on it. And so this is really the genesis of why this movie came to be. We could have done anything, but I needed to get some sort of handle. So I started to do research about abductions, and I was totally blown away that there were so many people, not only in this country, the United States, but around the world. I mean, literally millions of people. I say hundreds of thousands. There are millions of people who have had some sort of brush with this, in quotes, other, whatever this is. And I was blown away. And so that's how the movie began, and why I was, you know, because I did tell you the truth, I would have never in a million years done it. I would have never in a million years done it.
Now, did everybody else see the?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
They were saying thank you.
So it wasn't just you. Everybody else.
No.
Well,
I would say, like I said, 12 or 15 people there, and there were 2 or 3 of my crew with me. And somebody said, "Why? I thought I saw. What is that?" And then everybody else was talking about it, and they saw it, and they saw it move and zip, and then float out. And they were all talking to it as it went away. And I thought, you people are insane.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I say that not questioning you know, your sanity
No.
Believe me.
You know, sometimes this phenomena happens, and I think part of it, and maybe this is part of the gift that some people get, is they see it more than others, or
Right.
you know, and this happens in the paranormal world as well.
Right.
Like, you know, you could have a group of 5 people, and 3 people see the apparition. The other 2 are looking in the same direction; they don't see it at all.
Right.
So there's some connectivity there.
Absolutely.
That happens, but your whole group saw it.
Yeah,
and,
I agree. I agree with you on what you said about that. About, you know, 5 people can look at something. I think, honestly, yeah, that's true for 2 reasons. Part of it is you, the observer, and where you are, like how well adjusted you are, how observant you are, but also, you know, we are so egocentric. We think of ourselves as the only participant in that.
Yeah, no.
The phenomena itself is intelligent.
Yes.
And can make choices.
Yes.
And so I think part of that is that reason too, is that whatever, can make decisions about who it reveals itself to.
I agree with you 100% on that.
We both do, yeah.
We talk about that often in the, you know, ghost or spiritual world. I think some of these entities, be whatever we want to label them, are of a consciousness that we can't even understand, because humans are self-obsessed and we think we're the king of the hill at all times. You know, from our perspective and our view, we dominate the world, and nothing could possibly have these kind of, you know, quote unquote superpowers, you know, or be able to walk by us unseen or affect our lives in some way that just doesn't logically, logic being the key word, make sense to us.
And it really is kind of ridiculous if you think about it. Nature is rife with examples of fellow mammals that have talents that we don't have, or eyesight that we don't have, or abilities that we don't have. You know, we have to build machines to duplicate those things. But yet our arrogance still props its ugly head up and takes control.
That's right.
It's all about this ego thing. And this is you know, it's interesting that you've driven the conversation this way, because ego really is at this kind of center of this entire phenomena, and kind of the defeat or conquering of that ego is key to engaging in what comes next. It's I remember my mother as a child. She used to say to me, I mean, I was a child. She used to say to me, you know, if you know everything, you can't learn anything, right? So if you are everything, if you are everything, then you can't learn anything. You can't see anything because you already know it. And I think that's where we find ourselves as a species in many regards.
Absolutely. We see the food chain in nature, and the gazelle doesn't get up thinking, "Oh, the lion's going to eat me today." It just runs and knows how to run if it's in fear, but it's not thinking about it necessarily. Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to turn around and negotiate with the lion.
Yes.
And this is where this film eventually goes. It deals with the fear, which is something that Hollywood would love us just to dance our entire show on.
Right.
I mean, the fear exists, and if anybody says, "Oh, well, there's no fear," that's not universal. There's tremendous fear because of the ontological differences. Some people don't have fear. Some people have a little bit less fear, but there's a lot of fear. So we decided not to ignore that. We would deal with it. And what we do is we take our viewers from a place of ignorance and fear, which go hand in hand,
absolutely,
to a place of understanding. And that's a much more powerful place for us and our egos to be. And if you understand something, then you can deal with it. You can engage it. You can negotiate with it. You can communicate with it. And so this is where this arc of the story in this film goes. You start off with me as that boy. And you are terrified because you're going to live through what I lived through. And you're going to see what I saw. And then you're going to see how these wonderful people from around the world and around the country have had similar experiences and how they've dealt with it. And they're not tinfoil people. These are mothers and fathers, and designers and business owners, master's degrees, and they're they're me, they're your Uncle, Sam or whomever. People will see themselves or people they know on camera. And then, of course, we have the shepherding of Mr. Strieber, but we also have the tremendous help from a woman named Debs Shakti. And I've come to believe that she is my guardian angel in a way.
Right. Yeah,
there was
her trailer
Yeah.
that you had sent with the kind of behind the scenes casting that our audience may or may not have seen, but it looks so fascinating. Go ahead.
And she's the one that gave you the what is it, the regression?
Well, that's actually, I understand what you're saying, but that's actually not accurate.
Okay.
What I'll tell you what she is she is a global practice. She is a quantum hypnotherapist. And the idea is that, in regular hypnotherapy, it's a kind of a direct line. The stuff that you've forgotten, you can remember because what they do is they relax you enough to open up that drawer. You always had the memory. And so the idea with quantum hypnotherapy is that everything is entangled. So the idea is that you can rise above and you can move over to the other side and come down on the other side and see that little ball that rolled across the street when the car swerved. You can see all angles of the thing, whatever the thing is.
Right.
It's the same information. It's just that the drawer, the filing drawer that you open, is a universal filing drawer because all things are happening at the same time. All of this is entangled, and this is not my opinion. I mean, this is cutting edge quantum physics. Yeah, these guys, they're putting it together today. They understand it more and more and more, that all these things are happening at the same time.
A way of looking at your memories from other standpoints.
And it can be measured as well.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got that wrong. I was trying to figure out the question, what she was. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. So what happened was there was that point at the top of the stairs that as I was recalling it, I can't remember. How did I switch places, right?
Right.
And where did I go? And how did that happen? I felt there was movement, but I could not put my thumb on it. And I remembered everything else crystal clear. And then it's funny because when she did relax me enough, and this took several sessions, but the final session is actually on camera, so the audience will live through that with me. It's kind of uncomfortable to watch. There were, even in my memory, as clear as it was, there were screen memories to try to protect me.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're going to find out some very surprising things. The story that I just told you is absolutely accurate, but there's some different things in there that I did not recall that come out in the therapy, in the session. And I was completely blown away.
And
For
you think they
45
were
years, I thought, yeah, I'm sorry.
defenses, like natural defenses coming up to guard you from truly
Yeah.
remembering what happened, kind of thing?
And we talk about screen memories in the film. We spent some time on that. You know, I'm sure that you probably heard about people who have had visions of owls, say.
Yes.
Yeah, but those aren't
Big
owls.
thing.
Yeah, and or deer with huge eyes, this sort of thing. You know, and part of this is, once again, the intelligence interacting with us, and this is also our defenses, our minds, our souls trying to protect us. You know, and once again, you're going to find out that in these cases with these screen memories, there's a Y in the road. And if empowered, we can take the less traveled road. And we can, in fact, engage with something that would absolutely terrify us normally. And in the end, I found, through the help of these good people, through the help of Mr. Strieber, and through the help of Deb Shakti, I was able to take that road and find out specifically what happened and where I went and what I learned and what happened to me.
Oh, it's wonderful. I'm glad.
John, I need to ask this question. What is it you think they want?
That's a great question, and that's a very complicated question. When you say they, that assumes we're dealing with one source. And I don't think we are. You good people deal with the paranormal, and that, you know, ghosts and spirits and elementals and this sort of thing. I think what we're doing is we're dealing with really 4 or more separate sources of this. One of them.
I like the way you said that, sources. I like that word.
Sources, yeah. I usually use the word agency, but people misinterpret me. I don't mean agency like alphabet soup. I'm talking about just sources. So one of them is the sources. You know, we've been on this planet for so many years, and there is a coexisting sort of intelligence of the planet of Gaia. They used to call them sprites and people of the forest and elves and this sort of thing. Some sort of intelligence that's there that we don't quite understand, that somehow in our less sophisticated days we had more contact with, and we understood it that way. Then, of course, we do have the alphabet soup. Listen, the U.S. government, the governments around the world, they have technology that we don't understand, and they've been keeping it from themselves. They've been lying about it, and we're just finding out about it just recently, too. So, you know, to argue about them lying about it is silly, because they do have technology that we never found out about until now, and they probably have more. So there is some of that happening, just like there is some of that elemental, that intelligence happening. Then also, we do have, in fact, some sort of contact with physical beings from other rocks in the universe. I mean, we're sending probes all over our solar system. A more advanced society is not sending probes, and if you could put people in it, you would. So Elon Musk is doing something that has never happened before. Come on, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that. So of course we're having interaction with those things and those entities and those peoples. And then last of all, we're also having some sort of contact with what we have referred to all through our history as angels and demons. Some people call them ultra-terrestrials. These are intelligences that are so far beyond us that through their physics, through their technology, or just through their consciousness, they are pressing themselves into our world and either observing or having some sort of interaction. So when you ask me, what do they want? This is a huge question. And in the film, there are many of these very large concepts. And so what I do is I try to reduce them down into something that people can, they say you can't eat an elephant in one bite, right?
Right.
So I try to say, I tell fables. Here's a fable, right? So Elon Musk sends this ship to Mars. And on this ship, we have somebody from Africa. We have somebody from Asia. We have somebody from America. We have somebody from Norway. They get off the ship and there's a Martian there. And they see these people. And they say, well, which one is the Earthling? Because they all look different. Through their genetics and their evolution, they're all different heights. They're different colors.
Yeah.
Okay, so who are they? Okay. And then also, what are their agendas? Well, one might be military, one might be industrial, one might be they're just there to take pictures.
Yep, there you go.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So if we accept that life is prolific throughout the universe, there is no possible way for us to wrap our arms around what they want. Now, the individuals that took me, a lot of people, they assume that these abductions are happening by Greys. I can tell you, the Greys didn't take me. It was somebody else, and you're going to find out.
Oh.
And the reason they took me, I can't say about anybody else. I've heard it all. I've, genetic experiments, this, and tagging people and hybrids and taking over the earth and eating babies.
Sure,
I mean, all of it. I can't speak to any of that. I can't. In my theory, all of that or none of that could be possible, right? But for me, it was preparing me. Something is about to happen. It's going to happen in our lifetime. You're going to see it. I'm going to see it. This doubt, this argument, this is probably going to bring us to this unity question that you and I were talking about off there.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to go away because something is going to happen that's going to be so blatant that people will not be able to say, well, what does it have to do with me? I pay my bills and I watch the football game on Friday night and I have a beer, and that's my life. Who cares? People will have to care because it'll be so blatant there will be no escape. This is happening, and when this happens, there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to be ready by their own design.
The conditioning that they've been brought up with, that we're all kind of brought up.
Or having the knowledge and sticking their head in the sand. You mentioned Ray Hernandez. Ray had talked about people who poo-pooed this whole thing, poo-pooed paranormal, poo-pooed aliens, and he said, kind of offhandedly, tongue-in-cheek, he said, you get 100 people that and you put them in a room, and then you say, listen, be honest with yourself. How many of you have had something happen in your life that you could not explain? He said, you'd be surprised. Probably the majority of them. So it comes back to the question of, and one of the things we deal with in the film is why me, right? I mean, I'm nobody special. I'm nobody special. And there doesn't seem to be any kind of pattern. It's not like they're taking all engineers or all attorneys or all,
right.
and
all walks of life.
Sure,
Yeah.
all walks of life. So what is it? What is it?
I don't know.
There's this why me thing. And so I turn it on its back and I say, well, I don't know that it's why me. I think it might be everybody. And just some of us are awake enough to know about it.
Now, after saying that, do you believe in have you ever heard of the zoo theory?
No.
The zoo theory is where their experiment and they, would be like the scientists or whatever and come down and take us and things. Now that being
That we're the zoo animals.
Yeah, we're the animals in the zoo. Now, with you saying that, do you believe in this zoo theory now?
I have to say, I try not to watch the evening news because when I do, I would have to agree with that idea.
Really?
Well, I just think animals committing crime and how we treat each other. This is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I would tell you this. There's something happened to me along this, and I'm telling you guys, if I would have had this conversation with you 3 years ago, if you would have told me that this was coming out of my mouth, I would have told you that you were out of your minds, that you're full of it. There is something that has occurred to me through this. And basically what it is that the world is so much bigger. The universe is so much bigger than we are. I mean, we are specks on a speck on a speck in a speck amongst billions, trillions of stars.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And yet, there is something so special about us. And this specialness is this thing people call a soul or consciousness.
Mm.
And it's this thing that ties us together because we're all the same stardust. I mean, think about it. Whether you call it God or you call it source or you call it the one, whatever. We all came from that, whatever that was.
This carbon matter. Yeah.
Panspermia. I don't know.
So I ask you, are you two good people? Are you two people with souls, or are you two souls with people? Think about it this way. You're wearing a shirt there, you're wearing that little sweater there. So if you took that sweater off and you put it on the back of a chair and you walked away, would that sweater jump up and dance around? No, it would take you to animate that sweater, yeah? Okay, so it's a sweater. It's a person wearing a sweater. It's not a sweater wearing a person, right?
Right.
So if this consciousness is universal, then really there is something other to this entity. So this entity contact, this thing that we're experiencing, when you talk about this zoo idea, there's something more to it. What I have determined is this is somebody shaking our tree so violently to say to us, listen, you are more than what you seem. Wake up out of this dream. You are not a person with a soul. You are a soul wearing a person. So if your life is only 70 years long, right? It doesn't matter what you do. You can step on that other person and hurt that person and lie to that because it's just 75 years and you've got to live your life and get what you need. But if your life is more than that, if there's some sort of plan or purpose here, that your consciousness survives, that your life lasts millions of years, then guess what? You are the ET. You are the alien. You are every other thing because you're part of it all, because that consciousness is universal. It's what animates each and every one of us. So this is more than just shiny lights in the sky. This is about consciousness, the things that make us the same and different, but more similar than different.
I
And
love
you
that.
will,
I
yeah,
love that. Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're saying. You're talking about the consciousness as being equal to what life is, and we would agree.
Yes.
We think consciousness. We're ascribers of the philosophy of panpsychism, where living creatures can hold any living creatures hold a real consciousness,
Trees.
and that's what life is. Like the trees,
Feelings.
how they interact with, say, mycelium, and are able to communicate with other trees. There's something going on there that isn't just wood.
But they everything holds a consciousness, right?
Has the
Yeah.
ability to hold a consciousness. Like you mentioned your sweater. The sweater isn't conscious, right? So it just stays there until you animate it. No, I love that, and it's a great analogy. And I also like thinking that, of course, we like thinking that consciousness lives on past our three-dimensional bodily deaths, and that there is something else out there that's bigger than maybe this trial run of whatever it is.
We're just meat
Being in the
bags.
zoo. Yeah.
Meat
Well,
bags.
think about this. Think about this. Have you ever had this experience? And I know the answer is yes already. Have you ever had this experience when you're staring at somebody across the room or whatever, and they turn around and look right at you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or you felt that somebody was staring, and you turned around and you saw, okay, look, if there's no consciousness, that shouldn't happen.
That's right.
That shouldn't exist.
Oh, it's
that
a real
doesn't
thing.
exist.
People are
It's
aware.
a real thing. It's a
They
real
train
thing.
people in the military
We
to
were just talking about that.
actually last week we were talking to
Yeah.
Lloyd Auerbach, who's a parapsychologist, about this very thing, and I've heard Rupert Sheldrake talk on it, and like Secret Service kind of things in the UK. It was MI6.
Yes.
They train people, if they're going to stab somebody in the back, don't look at them. If they're sneaking up to stab somebody, don't look directly at them, because they'll feel your presence. Why is that? Right? It's your consciousness. It's bigger than your sensory organs, I believe.
Your ego is, yeah.
Yeah. And so, to the subject of our interview tonight, if that is true, then that would make perfect sense why almost all of these entities communicate telepathically, because raw emotion is universal. Love, hate, fear, calm, empathy, all of it is in symbols and in emotion. Language limits what we can say. I mean, you think about this, I can never remember how many words it is, but in Alaskan tribes, there are like 13 different names for snow, every kind of gradation of snow. I mean, we say snow, but what are we talking about? So what I'm saying is that if you were going to try to communicate with something, you think about, I don't know if you have pets, but when you're talking to them and you're trying to soothe them, you lower your voice, you soothe them with this. Now, do you think that dog understands English? Really?
No.
I don't think it's English that he's picking up on, because if you said "I love you" but screamed it at the top of your lungs in a harsh voice, I don't think he would understand, or she would understand, that you loved it.
Right.
Okay. So this is what my point is that I think that these other consciousnesses understand this, and this is one of the reasons that they communicate with us in that way.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, I'm sorry, Chris. Why are some so malevolent?
And some so not.
Okay.
No.
Really hard to answer.
Okay. Well, let me ask you something. Why are we so malevolent to our children, to our brother, to our sister, to our neighbors, to the people who live across the border? Why? A lot of reasons.
Some would say
a lot of
human
reasons.
nature, right?
A lot of reasons. And guess what? Are we more advanced than we were during Roman times? We got a lot more toys. Okay, but people are the same, right? Some of them have evolved. I mean, we don't eat with our hands anymore. Okay, but so think about it that way. But then also remember this: when you talk about malevolence, You know, when we come down in that helicopter, we tag that deer. Are we trying to do harm to that deer? No. In fact, what we're trying to do is make sure that the mating season's right. We study them and make sure that they don't go extinct and everything else. But if you had to ask that deer, and that deer could speak, I don't think that deer would say they were treated very well.
That's right.
Okay.
It's like for the good of the species kind of
Sure.
thing.
So it's a perspective thing. So do I believe that there are negative forces out there? Absolutely. There cannot be any sweet if there is no sour. Absolutely. So I totally agree with you. But I also think that you have to divide that into two parts. The first part that is just, well, why don't you, it's an ego thing. Well, why don't you treat me as an equal? Well, why don't you understand that I am completely in control of my life and my ego and my space? And how dare you? Meanwhile, this entity is, you know, how many thousands of years more advanced than we are and looks at us as a cave person, really.
Right,
A hairless ape.
As the
Okay, so
deer.
you have that, and then you also have the ones that are just don't care, just like us.
Right. 'Cause that's how people are. Not
Yeah.
everybody's a nice person.
No, I wish
Yeah.
We certainly have
and that's where the
people
the
that
unity.
are not nice. You know, most people are good-willed and that kind of thing, and it don't mean harm to their neighbor. But some of us are very selfish. Some of us are mean. Some of us are downright evil in
terrible.
ways. So I can see that certainly carrying on and into species, we'll say.
Sure, why not? Why not? Once again, you know, we keep thinking about things in terms of us. We're so egocentric. Well, why wouldn't you treat us better? Why? We've been so kind.
No.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. If you'd observe it as a case,
Perhaps. Watch. Yeah.
You know,
I'm sorry.
the flag's in the corner over there, the Ukraine flag, for a reason. You know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we'll think about this. You know, I mean, you know, if maybe you were, let's just make this up, you were new to the neighborhood, and you're watching this orb, and you're seeing the war and the people hurting each other and everything else, you might say, well, listen, this is the language they speak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go down and assimilate.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is how we do it. Right.
Maybe this is the only way they understand.
Yeah. And that might be true in a lot of cases, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm speculating, but that just occurred to me, you know. When in Rome, there was the Romans,
yes,
that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say something, I just lost it, but it was about energies. You were talking about the animals, and they can feel our emotions. Because we give off the energies and the frequencies and the vibrations. And what do you think? Linda Judd had a question. She said, staying in a higher frequency is a natural protection from those operating in the lower frequency. What do you think about frequencies?
I think of everything like communication.
Okay.
Okay, and this is what I mean. So if you are always in a higher vibration, if you are always giving off light, then you are going to attract things, entities, people, opportunities in the same wavelength. Those things are naturally going to come to you. The birds of a feather. If you throw off negative, then you're going to, you know, live by the sword, die by the sword. I mean, these are old adages that we've had in our society forever. Okay, so watch this. Let's suppose, just once again, speculation. Let's suppose entities come here and they communicate via vibration and energy, and they have mastered this physics and they have mastered this consciousness, and they look out over a town or a city or a home, and they see these energies coming from certain individuals. Well, of course they'd want to communicate with those people. Of course they'd be attracted to those people.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and you know, I want to touch on something that's sensitive. I've had a criticism recently. Most people have been very, very, very kind to me, and I'm very grateful for that. But somebody gave me a criticism the other day, and they said something about, well, this is all bunk, and all you have to do is call upon the name of Jesus, and this will dispel all these are demons. And I said, yes, of course. You can call upon the name of Jesus and dispel demons, but demons did not take me. See, this is once again saying that not me, but somebody has the answer. I know that only demons are only, okay, the world is much bigger. There are more things under the sun and the moon than fit into your philosophy.
Right.
There's so much more. And when we try to box it in, once again, that is an ancillary of our own ego. Because, see, once again, you know everything. So it must be a demon, right? It can't be just, this guy from Alpha Centauri or whatever. I know,
Right.
I know I'm being glib, but
we have a tendency to pigeonhole things
yes.
and, label things a certain way,
Sure.
beyond one's personal understanding. And then people shut themselves off to new knowledge or
God, yes.
don't look for
Terrible.
comparisons between different cultures, for instance.
Well,
They
everybody's
say the
unique.
same thing is happening right over
Right.
here, but they call it that. They have another
Right.
name for it.
Mhm.
These people call it telepathy, and these people just have a different, an indigenous name for the same
Mhm.
thing. And perhaps they're speaking through symbolic
Mhm.
language, right? That root language we were talking about. I know a lot of telepathy happens that way. A lot of psychokinesis
Yeah.
is conveyed symbolically,
Okay. Yeah.
much in a way that it seems that the aliens, if they are alien, speak to us. Now, do you believe that they all are from outer space, from another planet,
Multiverse.
universe,
I mean,
or do you think some of them might be living right here among us in our own Gaia?
As I said a little earlier, I think that we're dealing with 4 different sources. And I personally believe that as a child, I had interactions with off-worlders that were here for a purpose, that may still be here for a purpose. During my search in this film, I encountered what I mentioned first, which was some sort of intelligence that's lived here, coexisted with us in Gaia, an awareness, a consciousness, and that pushed me forward to find out more, and broke down my defenses, because even during the filming, I fought revealing. I was never supposed to be in the film. It wasn't supposed to be about me. It was about searching for this information, desperately trying to find this information for other people. And I don't say unfortunately, but I got kind of dragged kicking and screaming into it through.
I bet.
Yeah. I'll tell you the story. I was in Michigan, and we were filming a CE5 group, and it was at the end of the night, and so the whole crew was loading up the gear, and I was helping, and one of the people said to me, who was participating in that group, they said, "Hey, listen, did you guys pick up any energy over here?" And I said, "No." I looked at the guy, "No." And they said, "Do you mind, walking over?" "No problem." And I kind of gave my guys the high sign. I said, get going. I'm going to go over here, and I want to be respectful, but I don't think we're going to see anything here, And and so they made arrangements with me to meet me for dinner. It was an all-night diner. I said, "I'll be a few minutes." So I walk with this person, and we're walking on this very, very flat. It looked like a soccer field. It was very, very flat. And we're walking towards this tree line. And as we get to this tree line, we're about, I don't know, 50, 100 yards, something like that. We're talking, and this light comes out of the middle of the trees, and it hits me right in the chest. and it was this amber sort of light, and it was round, and it had some sort of a physical impact on me. I could feel, some sort of pushback. And I said, what the hell? And the person said, okay, just relax. I said, relax, I'm getting attacked here. What the hell is going on? And just then, this light, kind of a blue light, flew out from the top of the trees and flew back down. And I said, oh my God, look at that. And they said, I know, relax, just breathe. I said, breathe, what is going on? And then over here, it looked like somebody, you have drummed your fingers, as you're waiting impatiently for something. Yeah. It looked like somebody had drummed their fingers up against a sheet of glass. And every one of those fingerprints was a little light that lit up. And I said, what is this? And it's happening all this fast, this fast. And then just then, the entire, this is not 360, but 180 degree, it lights up, the entire forest lights up with these little tiny blue-white lights. And I said, what? And I'll share this with you. I carry a gun. I didn't have it with me that night, but I froze and I reached because I was petrified of what was happening. I thought, I'm going to be attacked. And I don't know what the hell this is. This person is trying to calm me down because I'm starting to get loud. And I'm not a small person. I'm a pretty big guy. And this person's trying to calm me down. I am reaching for my gun. And these things came out of the forest. And they flew at me. And this person too. But as they got close to me, they disappeared. They kind of disintegrated around me. And I went, what? And I felt this absolute ice cool air. And I breathed it in. It felt like that, I've said this many, many times in interviews. It felt like that, like a peppermint patty, right? Yeah. You breathe that in, you feel that cold air. Mm-hmm. And I was staggered. I was staggered. This person waited a beat and they turned me around and they started to walk me back to my truck. And I'm trying to put words together like, what? This, and I said, did you, yes. And I said, how in God's name something like this? And I was angry at myself because I reached for my gun and I showed myself as a coward, right? I'm not proud of this. I'm just telling you the truth. And I get back to the car. I'm sitting there for a minute and I call the guys and I said, listen, I got a story for you. You're never going to believe this. And I'll be right there. They said, well, Johnny, we ate dinner without you. That was like 2 hours ago, hour and a half. 2 hours ago. I said, what are you talking about? I was gone 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And so this had happened prior to my whole admission and everything else. And this was, to me, that, when we talk about they and grays and aliens and what, that to me is that intelligence of this earth that is somehow communicating, because this whole thing about this consciousness, this universal language was saying to me, we see you and we know you see us. And I had such a hard time with that, because then I knew that my admission, my confession was imminent. It was coming up. Even at that point, I had kept it under tight wraps. My interview in the film is at the act. We actually taped it at the end so we could have all the footage and then I could comment, throughout. Mm-hmm. But I was never, ever, ever going to be part of the film. That's not what, I say this tongue in cheek. I say, this is really not a resume builder. Fox is not going to call me and ask me to anchor their new show, right?
Right.
Oh, the little clip that I saw of you talking, I thought was fantastic. And I think now that we've been going on a little over an hour, maybe it'd be a good time to remind people that it comes out in 5 days, right? And
yeah, May 3rd.
on every major streaming platform.
Mhm.
I got a 5-day trailer here. But it'd be all right to play that, let people
Yeah,
just see.
and you'll get another one tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then one every day until the very end.
Excellent.
Well, I'm just going to put that on right now real fast to just bring anybody up to speed that might have joined a little bit late.
Sure.
They have to start somewhere before the person is closed to the unknown.
I believe I was 3.
I was probably 4 or 5, 6 or 7 years old.
I was 7 years old.
Between the ages of 7 and 12.
My first contact was when I was in middle school.
This was a place that we used to play, and it was a burnt circle on the ground.
This was something that I kept buried for years.
And we're back. That it just looks so cool. I just want to tell everybody you got to see this.
We cannot wait for it to come out.
It's a really, really good movie. The people that we've had screen it, they've all said basically the same types of things. Number one, that they felt fear. There was moments when they felt fear. Number two, there wasn't a dry eye in the room a couple of times throughout the film, because you just empathize so much with these people and what they're going through. And then the fact that I mentioned earlier, that you see these people and they're so recognizable in that they're archetypes of people. They're just normal folks. They're not, and then the last part is that this, most UFO documentaries are kind of antiseptic. They're like third-person narratives. Back in 1947, this happened and this.
Yeah.
But this, you're in the middle. You're immersed in the story. You're walking with these people. You're living this with them, and so I have to tell you that when I was, we have a great editing staff. Joey Kelly is our editor, and we have a director of post-production, Mark McCouga. And those guys, and then I would be remiss if I didn't mention our director of photography, Tad Makowicki. These guys are real artists. And so my emphasis was that I needed us to be communicating on several levels, not just with the information. The information was very important, but we had to resonate with the people. We had to speak to them on a human level, because this is all about us. This is less about aliens and less about them or they than it is about us in the end, and where we're going to go from here and which direction we're going to go. It's up to us. It really is. And I said, we have to be able to immerse people in the experience. And so that's one of the reasons that you might be seeing the press that you're seeing, and the kind of statements from these luminaries in the community, because they sense it's totally different. And I don't want to use the word proud, but I'm very satisfied that we were able to achieve that.
Do you think they have, and when I say they, I don't mean the ones that are maybe like us, where you can have a certain percentage that is just outright evil. Overall, do you think they have a message? And what is that message? Without giving away the movie.
Yeah.
No, because and somebody also took me to task. I got another criticism meeting the other day and said, "Oh, answers, well, me, this sort of thing," kind of sarcastically. And I said, well, exactitude of meaning, my friend. I didn't say the answer. Answers. There are many, many questions. But these are some answers that people can start to hold on to and build on.
Sure.
What do I think? I genuinely believe that they want us to know that we are more than we think we are. And if we know that we are more than we think we are, we will change. We will want the best. We will for our neighbor. We will want to be service to others as opposed to service to self, because it's like every religion that you've ever heard about. Do unto others as you would have the golden rule, right? And the reason is because if we all are one, if we all are one family, and it's not woo-woo, I'm talking about literally, we're made of the same stuff, physically, chemically, biologically, and spiritually. We're made of the same stuff. If you cut off your thumb, you would not be helping the hand. The hand would be diminished. But this has to be universal. See, you can't just be a good person and be surrounded by evil people. It doesn't work that way. Think about all the great people in the history of our species who were the only good person. They usually killed them. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
They usually killed them. Okay. So this is what the universal message is that we're all that good person potentially. We all have that ability. We all have that calling. This is the thing that will shock the hell out of everybody who sees this film. And I said it before. How can shiny lights in the sky make you want to be a better person? How can that possibly be? How does that voyage go? How does that happen? And I'm going to tell you, when you watch this, you're going to understand how it happens. When you realize, when you take yourself, because the only person who can do this is you. I can't tell you, the government can't tell you, your priest can't tell you. You have to do it yourself. When you can remove yourself, realize truly how you are in this mix, it changes you. And as I said in the trailer,
we can't wait to see it.
Change me.
It sounds awesome.
It sounds
And
amazing.
We've got a couple of good comments out here in
Yes.
the audience I wanted to bring up. Our friend Rob says, great to be with you again, my friends. John has previously stated that he wasn't given any special gifts at a younger age. However, it is obvious he has been blessed with the gift of knowing truth. And I'd have to agree with him.
Thank you.
That's a wonderful comment. Thank you, Robert. Linda Judd says, just so you know, the energy you feel when you're crying is because you are feeling the divine unconditional love. The energy you feel each time gets easier to bear as our understanding of spiritual truth grows. Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I wasn't such an ugly crier. I'd probably appreciate that.
Well, a lot of creatures don't cry, right? Humans do. So
I have so many questions and I don't know where to begin because I wrote a bunch of stuff down. How about past lives? What do you think about them? Do you think we have had past lives? Our consciousness.
Are we reincarnating to get it right?
Right, that's a good
one. There are two individuals in our group. You'll meet them in the film. Stacy McCardle and also Kimberly Porth. Both of them state that they had literally made an agreement and had made the decision to incarnate in this time, in this place, in this body, and have the experiences that they're having in this three-dimensional world. Now, to me, at the beginning, I have to tell you, I scratched my head at all this stuff. Remember, I'm a kid with trauma, right? And so my mind is, hey, some jerko threw me down the damn stairs, right? Mm-hmm. This is so much bigger than I could possibly ever imagine. And yet, as you go down this rabbit hole, as you realize that everything is literally just atoms and energy and waves and particles and vibration, you say to yourself, wait a minute, things that I thought were totally bunk and totally impossible are literally possible.
That's right.
And so I thought, wait a minute, am I falling in the same damn trap that I accuse other people of with ego? Because it's, I don't speak that specific language. That, well, then it doesn't make any sense to me. I had some guy tell me the other day about, he was a total atheist, didn't believe anything. And I said, really? I said, well, that's fine. I said, why is that? He goes, I don't believe anything I can't see. And so I invited him to stand in front of an x-ray machine for 2 weeks. I said,
oh, that's awesome.
I said, see how that works for you. And I have to tell you, he didn't like me after that. But so what do I think about this? I honestly don't know. But do I think it's within the realm of possibilities? I think that God, the source, uses all things for good. And if this is part of the plan, then far be it from me to cast any aspersions on it.
Right. Synchronicity is a very interesting subject,
Yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
Young's
Yes, sir.
synchronicity and how life just seems to throw you what you need
When
if you're looking, if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
It seems to be right there, and things line up certain ways through our life that seem unexplainable.
Like there's a plan or a program or an
Ex-
intelligent design.
Exactly. That gives credence to asking, is this a simulation? Is I don't know. We have
Right. Sometimes
so
it seems
many
too good. We think
questions.
maybe it's a simulation, or how does all this tech come
Planned
so
out for you
fast and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Do you create your own well-being? Do you create your own health? Do you create your own livelihood?
Yes.
Do you? Okay.
Are you sure? I'm not sure. You said that.
I mean, within your own capabilities, of course, you create your own reality. So why not, as we advance up, think about the lowest thing that you can possibly think about. Think about an earthworm. Does that earthworm create its own destiny and through its own actions does its own thing and eats it whatever it's going to eat, and then go up and up and up and up, and here we are. Well, now take 5 or 6 or 10 or 1,000 steps above us. Why not? Why not? Why isn't it all part of this plan? This omnipresent, interlocking pattern of waves and particles and energy. I laugh sometimes at people, and I don't mean in a degrading way, but I always think about this. I said, they say, oh, that's crazy talking, whatever. I said, okay, then tell me something. Can you tell me which gears flip in your head when you have a thought? They look at me like I have 4 heads. There are no gears in your head. You're not smart. It is electricity and vibration and energy siphoning through synapses which create thought.
Yes.
So where did that come from?
And it's not all in the head. Most people think everything is mental and it's in the brain, but
your heart,
your whole body.
Absolutely. We're receptors for this stuff. This just comes back to the thing we were talking about. Are we souls wearing bodies? Because then if you can imagine cross-section, right? So here's the head and here's the rest of us. And it's almost like we kind of pushed ourselves into water or pushed ourselves into a plastic. So part of us is here and we're living out this simulation, this life, but really everything is back here. Everything is back here.
Yeah. Do you think our consciousness exists outside of the body as a person lives?
Absolutely.
I mean, not just when
absolutely. I think we're. I don't want to use the word assigned because it sounds like we're in the military or something, or in a business. But I think that we're attached to these bodies, whether we choose them or we're assigned by God or the source or whatever. But we're attached to these bodies for this particular interaction in this world. And but I think that all that consciousness, everything else is outside. Like I said, if it's not, how the heck can you stare at somebody across the room and they notice? Or let's do even a more remote example. Okay, have you ever been thinking about somebody and they call you?
Yes.
Yeah.
How in God's name
Great
is that
common phenomenon.
possible possible if,
Right.
in fact, consciousness is local. It has to be non-local, because that experience that I just said is universal. I don't care what your culture is, what land you live in, that has happened to you or somebody you know. How is that possible? It has to be that consciousness is non-local.
That's right. So our friend Gail Hyson, speaking of that, and
Yes.
is psychic herself, and then she just jumped in. Says,
A
"Love you guys."
shaman.
She is a shaman.
Mhm.
I need her help.
In the laboratory. Yes.
I need somebody to teach me
She's
something.
fascinating. I will introduce you to her.
Yes.
She has a wonderful podcast called Small Medium at Large, and she worked with Dean Radin.
Oh,
you're
Mr.
probably
Radin,
familiar
yes.
with it. It's a subject for
Russell Targ and
psychic abilities.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's bigger than our physical bodies, and I think we're all connected somehow. Somehow our subconsciouses are, and it has to be a way for telepathy, for example, to work, to be able to read someone's mind or predict things or know somebody's staring at you. There has to be more going on there than just the physical sensory organs.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you. Oh, I was just going to tell you this real quick. Just wanted to. There's a kind of a synchronicity between you and I. We were just on a podcast, and somebody just before this, and somebody had asked us a question like, "What was your moment that you remember the most?" And I said to them, "Well, I grew up in a haunted house. I had entities around me. I call them entities. I know one was a shadow figure, and it was very malevolent, and it pushed me down my stairs when I was 7 years old."
Mm-hmm. When she was 7, pushed
very
down the
sorry.
stairs. So,
And
similarity. Yeah, we've been talking about that.
I was very traumatized as well my entire life. Very, very traumatized over that. So I understand a little bit about, blocking things and how you felt and the stigma, the dogma, whatever, that don't tell anybody.
When you were describing that, I was thinking about Kristen, because we had, we have this, and we've told the story. Like, we both had haunted childhoods, but it didn't bother me. I wasn't scarred from it or felt I don't know, a long lasting fright from it. I was more interested. Trauma. Thank you. Is the word. And it took me a long time to get Kristen, and we dated for a couple of years before she would even touch anything paranormal. So it's an interesting thing about us, and definitely a parallel between the two of you. She was 7, down the stairs she went. So
by an entity. Yeah.
Now, you said there were 4 sources. Could you tell us what those 4 sources were? I'm not sure if you said it.
Sure. The first one I said was, it was, Gaia, the intelligence of this rock that we live on, this living rock, this environment, those entities or elves or sprites or whatever that is. The governments of the world, the second agency or source. The aliens from another planet. They, I'm not saying I know the planet or, but another place, just like we're exploring Mars and, the moons of Jupiter, this sort of thing. And then last of all, the ultra terrestrials, the angels and demons, if you will. So those 4 different, that's at least that it covers. I think one of the things is that people, this is why this ego thing clicks in. Okay, so you talk to somebody. Oh no, listen, they're all grays. Okay. Oh no, they're all tall whites, and the grays work for them. Oh, okay. Oh no, wait a minute. These are the reptilians. Let me tell you something. The reptilians are the only ones, and then everybody else. The grays are little baby reptilians. Okay. How about all of them? How about more than just all of them? How many countries are there? How many different types of people are here? How many races of individuals are here? Okay, That's one planet. Okay, the universe. Don't be so damn arrogant. So this is what I was just saying, is that it is bigger than we can possibly imagine. And everything we know is just a sliver of the truth. Some of it we've been lied to. Some of it we've been kept in the dark. Some of it has just been omission. Some of it is because we couldn't understand. Listen. If you've had children, and you're teaching them to read, you don't hand them the works of Shakespeare. Okay. Now that child could look at you as you handed them an ABC book, and that child could be defiant and say, "How dare you hand me this ABC book? I want all the secrets of the universe. How dare you hold back the Bard? I want William Shakespeare." That child would not know what the hell to do with it. They couldn't even read a sentence in that old English. This is where we are. We need to learn our ABCs. Then we learn words. Then we learn sentences. Then we learn structure. Then we learn how to copy others. And then we can create. We're just at the beginning. And that's why it's not alien abduction, the answer. It's answers. Signposts for us to continue the search. I have a second film in mind and a third as well. As I mentioned earlier, this film is supposed to take not just you and I, and people in the community or people of this mind or this ilk, but anybody could watch this film and empathize with these people. And most people are ignorant. And I don't mean rude. I mean ignorant, meaning they don't know. And ignorance breeds fear. So ignorance and fear to understanding. When you understand something, then you can do something about it. You can learn more, you can avoid it, but you have a choice. You're no longer totally ignorant. So the second film is about integration. It's about, okay, well now I know some truths. How do I learn more? Or how do I protect myself? Or how do I continue? And then the third film is, there are people like yourselves who have taken this information, who understand that there's something bigger, something other. And you've decided to do some service for the world by collecting people and talking about it, by bringing the information out so people understand it, translating it into the lowest common denominator so everybody gets a chance to eat that elephant a bite at a time.
Right. Thank you. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what the third film is about. But this is kind of like the path that we have to follow, just as individuals. And this is the path that I'm on. So, my critics, God bless you, stand in front of the X-ray machine if you like. That's fine. I've used this analogy in another interview. If Chris and I were standing on the hill, we were soldiers, and we put on night vision glasses. It's 2:00 in the morning. We see the bad guys coming up over the hill, right? And Chris says, "Well, I don't want to see that." He takes his glasses off. "Well, they're gone now." You're about to have a bad day, Chris.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, right?
Very, very bad day. So here's the point. This is what I'm trying to say to you, is that what I learned through my experience is that moment of irrefutability is coming fast. On April 5th, there was about 1,500 pages that was released from the government.
Yes.
Talked about abductions, talked about scars, talked about radiation burns, talked about missing births, talked about all kinds of stuff. That is crazy talk. Why the hell is it coming out now? Watch the news. But watch the news, watch the skies. And after this film, look in the mirror.
Man.
Wow, I'm excited.
I'm
excited. We had talked about that
intrigued.
Release to the Sun. I think it was 1,574 pages.
Sure.
We had Nathaniel Gillis, our friend, on. I think he mentioned he talked to you, actually. He's a good guy, a ufologist / demonologist. And we've had extensive talks about aliens with him in the past and abduction phenomena.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
As he's well versed in it. I can't wait to see this film.
Me neither. Real quick, I just wanted to say thank you for the 50 stars, Liz Milne.
Thank you, Liz.
We appreciate it.
The Paralinks Paranormal United Network.
Yes, our pun
we're
network.
going out on.
Sorry, John.
No, congratulations. I don't know what that means. Congratulations.
That's all right. We're not sure either, but we do appreciate it.
Yeah. So where can people find you yourself and
Sure. Well, as you said, the film will be released on May 5th, and it'll be on Apple TV and Amazon Prime and Google Play and Kino Now and every other video on demand, every cable station. You know, all you have to do is speak it into their remote and it'll come up. And then later on, it'll go to the big streaming places and then eventually to DVD. You can buy it at Amazon.com or whatever. As far as where I work at RYNO Pictures, and so you can find our projects under RYNOPictures.com. And so right now I'm in the middle of launching this film and then raising money to do the next film. So as soon as those new developments are, they'll be there. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. And please, if people want to yell at me or call me or make fun of me, you go right ahead and you can find me on Twitter.
We're on board with you. So you're right, because we feel the same way,
So they can find me anywhere. If you Google me, you'll find me.
Now RYNO is spelled RYNO, correct?
RYNO Pictures with an S.com.
Okay,
that's right. And some people will hear this as an audio broadcast.
Right,
so
that's why we
sure.
Those things.
Sure.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
Sure, and yeah,
Whitley Strieber's in this, and
Deb's.
I want
to.
Yeah. There's one more subject before we wrap up. I did want to touch on, and it has a little bit to do with Whitley. Oh, I'd love to talk to sometime. I've never had that pleasure, and very much respect the major force out there in ufology today.
Sure.
In his movie Communion or his book and later movie, and played by Christopher Walken, of course. One of the things we always thought, it seemed odd that he'd want to go back to them, considering some of the things that had happened. And do you have any kind of explanation for that sort of phenomena?
Well, first of all, I respect Mr. Strieber so highly. I can't tell you how much regard I have for him. So I would never guess to put words into his mouth. But having said that, I will direct you this way. Ray Hernandez, we mentioned him a couple times. One of the things that he did was he took a lot of surveys and he found, I believe this is the number, I think it's 93% of the people who had some sort of interaction or abduction phenomena happen to them would not avoid it in the future or wanted to encourage it in the future. And this is really mind-blowing if you think about it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And the only thing I'll say to you is, I reduce everything into these little silly things, and it's just to help people understand the feeling of it. When I was 7, I was not ready emotionally. And I still hold that trauma in me because I lived through that as a 7-year-old boy. Now I'm a man, and of course I would deal things with it differently, right? Maybe anger as opposed to fear, right?
A different emotion. Sure.
Yeah, different emotion, different development stage. But this is what I want to say to you, that it depends upon, once again, the source of the interaction. Remember, we keep talking about, there are different sources. So if they were malevolent, like we said, like you said, there were shadow people. For goodness sake, I'd fight to the death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if in fact it was more along the lines of what we said, helicopter down and we're tagging the deer, and we want to make sure that they're okay. And okay, well, as soon as you understood that, then they wouldn't have to spear you. You wouldn't have to be unconscious. You could actually, okay, listen, guys, let me give you the report. Let me tell you what's going on. You don't have to zap me, and you can literally participate. I know I'm reducing it down to the very, very lowest, most banal level.
No, but that's good.
But what I mean is this: we've talked about kids, that big water slide my God, they don't want to go on it. But the moment they did, they want to go on it all day.
Right.
Right. Sure.
Because there is an exhilaration, there is a bit of fear, there is a bit of novelty, but also there's this sense as you mature into this, you realize that you are part of something so much bigger. You guys are paranormal investigators. Why the hell do you do what you do? Because you realize there's something there that draws you, that unknown. And the fact that you can participate with it, and of course your accumulated knowledge and experience, it informs how you act as you move forward.
We want to know what did I call them? The highs and wows.
Yeah.
Wows and, yeah.
The
hows.
The hows and whys, but we
Yeah,
might call them the highs and wows.
Sure.
Good night. Just kidding. But no, I totally understand what you're saying.
Like a language barrier,
But it is a thing, you hear these stories of abductions that just sound so terrifying. And then you read something like, Beyond UFOs, and they give Ray a plug and the Free Foundation.
The survey.
Sure. And the surveys come back. Survey says, yes, I go back.
That's
and you go,
my
well,
mind.
I'm like, I'm not sure I'd want to go back if you reported some of the these things.
Well, as you mentioned communion. I mean, Whitley, for the longest time, he was battling himself. He says in his book, he was on the edge of madness. He said, am I going crazy? He's an intelligent man. He's very well educated. So he thought that he should see doctors, and he did, and tests and everything else. He said, this can't possibly be the truth. This has to be a figment of my imagination. He did everything that a critical person would do. Mm-hmm. And when all of those options were off the table, then he had to confront himself and confront the idea that, oh my God, if I'm not crazy, if I'm not deficient physically, is this true? So now he was on a quest to make sure, and I know, I have to tell you, I wanted, when I went under and relaxed enough to open those drawers with Deb Shakti, I'll share with you this. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be a liar. I wanted those people to tell me that I was a charlatan. I did not want that to be true. I did not. Because, see, if it's true, then that really does make me a liar for 45 years. And what kind of a person does that make me?
Right, but
there's all kinds of justifications. I'm just talking about internally. See what I'm saying? So it is a complicated matter, and so you end up saying to yourself, "Look, I need." At the end of that first trailer, I need to know. I need to know, and he needed to know. Yep. And so his experiences became different. They did not have to take him then. He participated and tried to communicate back. And I mean, hell, if you went to a zoo and you went past the monkey cage or whatever, and one of the monkeys stopped and looked at you guys and waved, you'd get a kick out of that, right? And you might wave back. And then if the monkey tugged his ear and you tugged your ear, and then you maybe adjusted your glasses, and all of a sudden the monkey adjusted. You say, wait a minute, that's pretty crazy. You call your husband or your wife over, you got to see this. This is nuts. Look at this. And then all of a sudden the monkey says, yeah, I'd like some money, whatever, or whatever. You would be amazed. This would be the most intelligent monkey you've ever seen in your life. You'd be fascinated. And the fact that this monkey was trying to communicate with you would endear that monkey to you. You would start to bond with that monkey. You would want the goodwill of that monkey. You would want some sort of relationship with this monkey.
I'd be wondering what the mushrooms and the salad I have for lunch, but
I'm not saying there were monkeys, but what I'm saying is that we can participate in this. And the moment that you realize that you do not have to be a victim, like I said, taking you from ignorance and fear to understanding, where you literally have a choice. That empowerment in itself gives you the courage to take the next step, to prove yourself either way. And then when you do know it, now here you are. And now what do you do? And so you have a choice every time. You have a choice. But you have to have understanding first.
I love that. I love that. A couple of questions out there, and some new people that joined through the through our show. I want to say hello to Melissa. Joshua Dixon is a regular. You joined late. Good to see you, Joshua. Gail asked if you had read the book Trinity by Jacques Vallée and Bill Harris. Are you familiar?
I know of both of those people, but I have never read that book.
That's right. You had a quote from Jacques.
Yeah.
On your trailer.
Yes. He like I said, because Whitley Strieber was involved with it, he was able to send it out and ask for critical analysis of it, and Jacques came back gushing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. May 3rd is the date.
May 3rd or May 5th?
May 3rd.
I thought so, because you said May 5th earlier. I'm like, no.
Did
I went and looked.
May is the 5th month. May is the 5th month.
True that.
5 days left.
True that.
May 3rd.
May
Maybe
3rd.
that's what it is. 5 days left. Yes, sir.
Yep.
May 3rd. May 3rd. Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Melissa Hui, thank you. She gave 50 stars as well. So
Appreciate those
very
stars,
much.
guys, and I appreciate everybody for
Everyone.
joining us tonight, of course, but especially you, John. This has been a wonderful talk and discussion, and I have to say I'm really excited. I genuinely mean that from my heart. We're going to
Thank
watch
you.
this. We're streaming this
Very
bad
welcome.
boy. So,
oh yeah, we can't wait.
if you sold us, I think you're going to sell a lot of people, because we are critical thinkers, and we have seen an awful lot of documentaries.
Yeah.
But yours looks so intriguing and so real.
Yeah.
I wanted to know exactly how these people feel that are in there and what the experiences are like for them, including yourself.
Apparently, we're gonna have to get tissues. What did you say earlier before the show, Brawny? I'm gonna have to get my
Brawny paper towel guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh.
right, that's his shirt.
No, I meant for my eyes, because I know I'm gonna just
Sure.
cry through the whole thing. I mean, well, not that part at least. It's
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and it sounds like it ends on a really profound note. And
I was looking for peace, and I found a measure of peace through the help of those good people, and I hope everybody does.
That's wonderful. It's great.
this has
We
been
appreciate
excellent.
it. Thank you. And
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'd like to have you back when you come out or streaming, whatever, your second and third films.
Absolutely.
We'd love to see them.
I hope you've
Please.
enjoyed talking with us.
Yeah.
Stick around. I'm just going to wrap up, and we'll say our goodbyes in a moment.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's about all the time we have this week. We are off Saturday. We are going to a concert. We're going to see Godsmack.
First time in
And
my
it's
life.
going to
I
be
can't wait.
a lot of fun. And you're going to do some headbanging. I think that's what they call it. That's what the kids call it.
I
these
actually
days.
wanted to mosh pit, but we can't go there now. They changed our seats because of COVID, and I'm
Yeah.
so mad at that. Anyway,
But yeah, we're not going to be doing Bigfoot and the Bunny on Saturday, but we'll be back next Thursday. So stick around. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody that joined tonight. Gail,
Yeah.
Alicia, everybody,
thank you
Joshua,
for sharing,
Linda.
Alicia.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Joanne. Yep. And
We'll see you soon.
bye. Thanks.